Hello, my name is Justin Wookie, and today I'm going to be talking to you about data analysis. 44 trillion. I think we'd all agree that's a fairly large number. Pundits estimate by the year 2020, this is going to be the amount of data that we create every year. To put it in a context that might be a little bit easier for you to understand, by the year 2020, experts estimate we're going to be creating 44 trillion gigabytes of data a year within a 4-year time frame. So that leads us into data analytics. What is it? It's really the science of looking at raw data and extrapolating from it valuable information. And as I think we would agree by the year 2020, there might be a need for that with so much data being produced. What I really want to focus on within this presentation is the concept of big data, which is applied to data sets whose size or type is beyond the ability of traditional relational databases to capture, manage, and process the data with a low latency. So what that is saying is larger data sets, the traditional methods of data analytics is going to be changing because so much data is being produced. It's hard to use it all. When we're talking about big data, there's 4 V's that are really valuable and considered when experts talk about big data. 1 is volume, 2 is variety, 3 is velocity, and 4 is veracity. And I'm going to spend some time talking about these 4 V's and what they actually mean in regards to big data analytics. V stands for volume, which is increasing data pool sizes, and these come from machines and users. And what that means is more and more as technology is growing, the amount of data available is growing as well. Kind of like this chart you see over here that compares structured to semi/unstructured data growth rates. And it's just growing at an exponential rate. In this graph, it looks like they're estimating around 35,000 gigabytes of data. Billions of gigabytes, I'm sorry. So a little bit less than the number they estimated, but that number is going to vary between experts. What I'm saying is data is increasing. There's more need for methods of analyzing data. And that's why big data analytics is a growing field and a growing business model, and why so many big businesses are starting to invest so heavily into this concept of big data analytics, because they realize looking forward that there's going to be a lot of data that they need to go through. And so one of the big V's of big data is volume. Another one is velocity, which relates to the actual growth of data. Kind of something also displayed in that last graph we just saw. But it's just the increasing speed of data generation, because data is always flowing continuously between like machines and businesses. So think almost like every time you swipe your credit card, that's creating data. It's creating your account information, a little bit about you, your name, what you bought, or also like networks and humans and like social media interaction. You post something you take a picture on your smartphone, you post that picture, you post it to the social media. That's all just data. And as we know, the world's being more, activity is increasing. We're becoming all more interconnected. And so as the data set sizes themselves are growing, so is the rate in which they're growing, which comes back to the second V of the 4 big V's of data sets, which is velocity. The third is variety, and I was just kind of talking about that with velocity. There's a lot of different data types. There's pictures, there's integers, there's Boolean values, there's string text. There's so many different data types. There's movies, there's audio. And it's not just the size, it's the variety. And how do you make sense of all these different, how does a business look at a picture and extrapolate data from that picture to create value to influence their future business decisions? And that's why variety is one of the 4 V's of big data, because of all these multiple data sets, and they're always in flux between structured and unstructured data. And how do you just deal with all these different data sets? That's why variety is the 3rd big V in big data. And the last one is veracity. This is the most common look towards V as people are making decisions about big data. And veracity really has to do with How reliable is this data? Is this data going to be relevant to the solution I'm currently trying to solve? Would a picture of a piece of cheese pizza be relevant to a financial advisor? Maybe, maybe not. But that's what veracity deals with. And a lot of problems arise in regards to veracity when you're looking at cultural differences, how people text, how people type. How I might post something on Twitter might not be the same way that you utilize 141 characters. So we might be saying essentially the same thing, but where I say you, Y-O-U, you might just use the letter U. And that is the problem in like cultural differences. And that's veracity, which is the biggest V of the traditional 4 V's of big data. This is a really cool infographic that I found and just kind of talks about all 4 of these things in conjunction and how they work together. As it says up in the top right corner, 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years alone. And I think that's just going to get, as we get closer to 2020 and creating more data, we're going to talk about the last 2 years alone to maybe a year alone, for example. And these are just some really interesting, eye-opening insights in regards to big data. Another one is really interesting is data is growing 4 times faster than the world economy. And it's just like, wow. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I thought I'd put that up there. People kind of take some time on. You could pause the screen if you'd like and just kind of go over it. So where's all this data coming from? You know, what's funneling this rapid growth in data and the need to analyze it and the need to harness it and save it and recall it? A lot of it's coming from the growing trend of the Internet of Things. More and more smart devices that are connected, talking, is just creating data. Business processes like with production, that's creating data. Smart devices within like concrete bridges or steel bridges that send data back to the architects and engineers so they can reference how a bridge is holding up in different weather conditions. That's data. So we have all these new devices that are becoming increasingly smarter, and we're looking to make more devices smart. That's just adding to all this big pool of data and the rate at which it's accumulating. Other factors in all this data is smart devices. You know, your phone. Your phone has so much data at your fingertips, and also at the same time as you're consuming it, you're creating it by your posts, your pictures, what have you. And then also social networks, like I was kind of talking about with how I use Twitter, might be different from how you use Twitter or somebody else used Twitter. So all of these 3 are the 3 biggest things that I've found that are contributing to this growing rate at the growing rate in which we need data and data analytics and big data solutions. Just putting it all together, what analyzes these things? Well, a lot of it is databases. Databases store and collect it, and then they need some way to put all this data together. So oftentimes they use powerful algorithms, which is just a hard-coded set of instructions on how to interpret or do something. And they use these powerful algorithms to sort through massive pools of data to really pick out patterns within the data. And then they look at these patterns and they make observations, or that they visualize the implications of the data. And that's where statisticians and these data analytics are a growing need in big business right now, because companies recognize the value in this and they're trying to capture it, which leads me to the fact that businesses in big data are having growing data sets, so they increase the need for the insight. But data sets also increase the growing need for statisticians. So more insights mean better informed choices from like the CEOs. Now that they can look at a pool of data, get a better understanding of what it actually means for them and their business, then they can make better informed choices. Better informed choices means captured efficiency, and captured efficiency just means more growth. So what this all means is it's all funneled towards growth, growing as an economy, a company. It's a highly coveted field right now. More and more companies are investing into this than a lot of other areas in terms of investment to growth ratios. And what this all really means is data equals value. The more you're able to collect, harness, interpret, and present that data, the more value you can either capture or bring to the table in terms of a company, in regards to, say, you were wanting to be a statistician, for example. So concluding that is the big data analytics is drastically changing the business landscape. It's a means of capturing efficiency and creating value for their clients and their own business. And it's to illuminate information that we normally wouldn't have seen in a data set. You know, you get all this data coming in at you, and imagine trying to listen to 1,000 people talking to you at once. You're not going to be able to hear any one individual person within that 1,000 people. But what big data analytics does is it takes those 1,000 people all talking to you at once, and maybe they're all just essentially saying the same thing, but in 1,000 different languages and 1,000 different ways. Big data analytics will then take that, and through various models and algorithms, point to the core message of what those 1,000 people were saying to you. So in a sense, it eliminates information. Thank you for your time.